My grandparents are getting really old, and they're at the point in their life where they either need to move out and live in a retirement home or file for in-home care, but being stubborn, they don't want to leave. So my dad and his brother Brian stepped in to help and file for in-home care. In order to apply for in-home care, all things that could be potentially dangerous need to be moved out of your house, including the old green snowplow truck that sits in their driveway that doesn't move. You would think that by helping your parents that it would be entirely beneficial, but in this case it was the complete opposite, and this is when everything started happening. It all started with an old green truck in the driveway. My dad and his brother Brian were working on it all day, and after a long day of working on the truck, they decided to see if it was time to see if it would actually start. His brother Brian sat in the driver's seat and turned the key in the ignition, as my dad stood outside with his hood on the open hood of the green truck. Imagine cool Colorado air, working on a car all day, gasoline on your clothes, and the wrong spark of a carburetor. That was the situation that my dad was in. With one spark, the next thing he knew, he'd stop, dropping, and rolling until an ambulance could take him to the nearest hospital. Picture being in Florida waiting for your dad to join you on a family reunion where you and your cousins and sisters and mom were all waiting for him to get there. The phone rings and you think it's your dad saying he got on his flight, but instead you just hear tidbits of the conversation from his brother, and all you hear is burn, I'm sorry, hospital, and you don't know what to do next. Once everything was gathered, the doctors were hesitant to tell us what was actually happening. They told us that the fumes may have caused internal damage to his lungs that could be life-threatening, that the burns were going to have issues in him regaining movement in his arms, but that we should also be very lucky because had he been looking at the flame when it sparked, that it could have burned his face and he would die on impact. So we held on to that little bit of hope that we had and made sure that we didn't question our faith, and we wanted to hold on strong. The next day, my mom got an emergency plane ticket to Colorado, where she stayed with him for the next 2 weeks in the ICU and burn unit there. She was there every step of the way while they cleaned the wounds and wrapped them and helped him take care of everything that they had to do, all the different tests where they checked his lungs and all of that. The hardest thing he had to deal with was the skin graft surgery, and no one in here has ever had that or suffered from third-degree burns. So for those of you who don't know what skin graft surgery is, it's where they take the skin from another part of your body. For him, it was his left thigh, which didn't happen to be burned, and they take the top layer off and put it in a machine that turns it into a mesh. And for this, they put it on your burn, and your skin should hopefully heal over it as well as possible. Once my parents came home 2 weeks later, it was a team effort to make sure that everything was okay with my dad. We had to help him take care of the wounds, which helped me realize that I wanted to be a nurse, as well as take him to all of his physical therapy appointments, the doctors, the different hospital visits, and the different interviews he had. We got to take him to all different sorts of interviews because the doctor that did his skin graft surgery is like #1 in the nation, so they were really surprised at how well everything was healing for him. We had to make sure that we never told him that we lost faith and that we were always going to have hope no matter what the situation may be, even though he may not be able to go back to work, which is the hardest thing for him to deal with. Today I took you on a journey and explained to you the hardest thing I had to deal with in my high school years. I told you about what brought forth the situation, the actual situation itself occurring, as well as the afterward and how we chose to deal with it. You have to remember to always have faith in a situation and never lose hope no matter what the situation may be. I feel like that's something that everyone should always remember. Miraculously, 1 year later, after many different doctor's appointments, my dad was cleared to go back to work, which was the happiest moment of his life. You have to have 100% mobility of your arm, in which he happened to regain. With his hope and faith that he needed to get him back on his feet, he was able to go back to doing what he loved, and hope and faith is all you need when you feel like your world is crumbling down. Thank you.